CI Games is a global video games developer and publisher based in Poland that focuses on premium AA+ and AAA multi-platform games with two main franchises, a first-person shooter, Sniper Ghost Warrior, and a Souls-like fantasy action role-playing game, Lords of the Fallen. CI Games has also recently announced a third new game under development, a survival game, Project Survive, working with a third-party Czech games developer, BatFields. For those that don't know, the games industry is one of the key beneficiaries of lockdown, with growth of more than 20% in 2020, driven by the demand for fresh new content. Between 2021 and 2024, market analyst Newzoo expects more regular annual growth of 7.6% per annum, building to a total market size of over $290 million by 2024. Long-term growth is expected to remain high, supported by a number of secular trends, and games is set to remain a growth industry. So today we're joined by CI Games CEO, Marek Tymiński. Marek, welcome.
Hello, hi.
Would you be kind enough to introduce yourself and CI Games?
My name is Marek Tymiński. I'm one of the founders of the company, and I'm the CEO for CI Interactive since the very beginning. CI Games is a global publisher of video games and developer. We have the headquarters in Warsaw, Poland. However, we very much internationalized our company over the last several years, with offices in Spain, in the UK, in Romania, in the US, and in France. We've been historically into consoles and PC with AA titles and AAA, Lords of the Fallen in 2014. Was a major turnaround of the organization back to 2018, when we get down to only 65 people and started to grow again under the new strategy. And currently today we are around 160 people across different regions of Europe and outside of Europe in development of three major projects, three major IPs. And behind United Label, that is our indie brand that we bring products from smaller developers to the global scene.
Thank you. And you've just released a strong set of Q3 results, which positions CI Games very well for the full year. What were the highlights from those results?
I think definitely the increase of revenue comparing to the last years. But what's really very important is the EBITDA margin and the net profit. I'm really pleased and really happy with the performance, not just for the Q3, but the whole period from the beginning of 2021. And I think we are absolutely set to have a high chance to achieve the forecasts given by Edison and other analysts.
And Marek, what exactly were the EBITDA and EBITDA margins?
So our EBITDA margin was 59% just for the third quarter, and it was 59.7% for 3 quarters from the beginning of 2021. And in terms of the net profit margin, just for the Q3, that was almost 42%. And for the 3 quarters of 2021, net profit margin was 33%.
Fantastic. And that positions you very well for the full year, as you mentioned. So following the release of Sniper Ghost Warrior Contracts 2 in June 2021, which was your big title earlier this year, we do not now expect the next major games launch until 2023, when Lords of the Fallen 2 and the next title in the Sniper Ghost Warrior franchise are both due to be launched. Do you want to talk a bit more about your plans for 2022 and 2023? And also cover off CI Games' 4 growth pillars and why Lords of the Fallen 2 is such an important title for you and the studio.
So 2022 will not have a major release from the standpoint of major IPs coming from CI. But this is the year where we can release potentially products under United Label. too early to promise anything now, but this can happen. But as you said, a critical year for us is 2023, where we schedule Lords of the Fallen 2, our biggest current project, as well as the next Sniper Ghost Warrior. So we have two major releases coming 2023. And from that year onward, we want to ensure that there is potentially at least one release per year. It doesn't mean it has to happen immediately, but it's very much looking like to be the case starting from 2023. Lords of the Fallen 2 is absolutely critical project for us. That's the biggest project we currently are in the development. That's the sequel to Lords of the Fallen that came out 2014. And we sold over 3 million copies of that game, with over 10 million people played that game throughout different subscription programs, including subscription programs coming from Sony and Microsoft. This is a very attractive genre of action RPG. And we have a very strong team, very talented and very senior, strong team across different geographic locations. For a lot of those people, it's almost like a passion project. So it's really realizations of their dreams to make that particular game. So it looks already really very good. It looks really very strong. And I'm very pleased with the progress so far, and we hit all the milestones production-wise since the game started to be in development internally. And we haven't presented anything yet to public, but I can assure you that we are in a very comfortable place with that game. I want to mention the marketing campaign. We plan to start the marketing campaign in the first half of 2022. Additionally to that, I mean, this will be a strong start of the campaign, right? I mean, once we start the campaign for that project, it's going to be a strong start of the campaign. We plan to have marketing campaigns taking around 1 year. So that can be the indication for investors when they can expect Lords of the Fallen 2 to be released. But it's still too early to promise exact release window.
Okay, if I remember on your analyst call, you did suggest that it would be Q1, Q2 2023.
I cannot confirm anything in terms of release date yet, but it's not impossible.
Okay. And you know, I suppose underlying your statement there is that games development is never a certain process. As we've seen recently with Frontier Developments and their sort of market issues. But how has your development approach changed to try to ensure that the next titles, you know, Sniper Ghost Warrior and Lords of the Fallen 2, will both be successful?
It's definitely based on analytical data at first, right? Those games are coming as sequels to already established franchises, and I think we have a very good understanding of those franchises, a very good understanding of communities around those franchises. And I think our teams are also having that understanding, and they proved to be right so many times before. However, we also work with external agencies that they evaluate, they review progress of each of the game in a different stages, providing us with independent reports to complement, you know, what we think, how we see each project, and yes, we redirect if we have feedback coming from outside agencies that there are things that we need to redirect. We tend to redirect that, and I think, you know, looking into not just the last Sniper Ghost Warrior contracts too, but also looking into titles that we brought from United Label. I mean, we have a very similar way of development, publishing, working with external agencies on our smaller games as well. And I think you can definitely see that through Tales of Iron or Elder Souls, that both games really made it both from the commercial standpoint and being really commercially successful, but also from the standpoint of quality perceived by gamers and perceived by media. It's been a process existing among CI games for a longer period of time, and I think we will continue like that. But at the end of the day, it's really up to the quality of the teams. We have very strong teams with the senior developers, with people who have been doing that for many years. And a lot of those guys have been with us for long. And their passion, their dedication, their commitment is really essential to make those games not just in a certain quality, but making them commercially successful in the future.
Wonderful. In our initiation note, we made some comparisons to the business models of Remedy Entertainment from Finland, Frontier Developments here in the UK, and Paradox Interactive in Sweden. What do you believe that CI Games has in common with these three companies?
I mean, I can just speak in general. I think we absolutely are driven by quality of our products, and you can clearly say that after 3 games that we released this year, Sniper Ghost War, Contracts to Tales of Iron, Elder Souls, all of them are high quality titles, both in the perception of gamers and media. And we share that. We share that a lot of those games if we develop internally, and if we don't develop them internally, we still dedicate our internal teams in order to make the best and help developers outside to make the best effort. And I think we all work on our own IPs. We really develop and grow our own IPs. We're not really working with other brands that we do not own. I mean, we develop our own IPs, and you can argue, yes, I mean, United Label, usually the brands, they belong to developers, but at the same time, we have we have a certain contractual obligations that you have either first right for the sequel. So it's kind of like we build that together, and we make it together, even if that doesn't belong to us. And obviously we have 3 major brands: Sniper, Ghost Warrior, Lords of the Fallen, and now Survive Project. Those brands are 100% ours. And we basically drive the business around that philosophy. And I think all of that in common is we have with the 3 mentioned companies. And I think all of us are in a phase of growth, and in a kind of like a dynamic phase of growth, and looking forward to become a bigger, a more important, more meaningful company in the industry.
Yeah. And I think as part of that as well, I suppose you and they are also building out their games portfolios to provide a more predictable and sustainable sort of financial profile in the years ahead, with large amounts of recurring, sort of semi-recurring revenues. So predictability, breadth, stability of portfolio, I think, is probably another key element I would highlight there. Exactly.
I think that what we clearly communicated recently, the business of CI Games is built on 4 pillars, and that's Sniper Ghost Warrior, Lords of the Fallen. Probably Lords of the Fallen can become the largest pillar, Survive Project, and United Label. And it's important not just for the investors, but it's important for the company itself to grow the business that is more diversified across those pillars. And we're very clear on that. We will be adding the next pillars. It doesn't mean we will add them in the next year, but it will come as well. It will come. The 5th pillar will come when the time comes for that.
Wonderful. And having touched on your potential release schedule, this directly impacts CI Games' financial expectations. So as we've discussed already, sort of, next year, FY22 is a quiet year with no major releases scheduled, whilst we anticipate 2 titles in 2023. We forecast a fall in revenues. So we, Edison, forecast a fall in revenues in FY22 to about 56 million Polish zloty, circa $40 million, before revenues surge in FY23 to over 250 million Polish zloty, about $60 million. What should an international investor be thinking about when considering an investment in CI Games? And what are the group's key performance indicators?
So I think answering the last question first, I think absolutely, as for the KPI, it's quite simple for us. It's the quality of our products together with the ROI on each project and on the franchise over a longer period of time. And I think, you know, for the 2022, we're very confident about your forecast. For 23, I mean, it looks absolutely achievable, right? It's a bit away from us at this moment, right? It's still 2 years ahead of us, but it absolutely feels achievable. And it's absolutely possible as well to beat the forecast. I mean, again, we don't want to promise anything. It's just too early, but it's absolutely reasonable. In terms of the investors, what they be really thinking about, what they can really think about us. I mean, CI Games has a major turnaround behind, and I think this year was a very strong financial performance, is really giving full clarity that we have a high chance to get the company to the next level. And current evaluation of the company is based on just part of the business performance. It's Sniper Ghost Warrior contracts to back catalog and the new titles from United Label. It's not based, and you know, and just to be fair, I don't think it's still a fair evaluation. It can be higher. It does not yet take into the consideration Lords of the Fallen 2 and Survive project and potentially more in the future.
Wonderful. So in other words, plenty to still look forward to.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, thank you very much indeed. Marek Tymiński, CEO of CI Games. It's been a pleasure talking to you today.
Thank you very much. Pleasure talking to you.